Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar going over an in-depth look into our IP software and iPac line. Today we're going to be learning how to utilize and maximize all of the features and functions available free to you to use with our iPac line. My name is Stephen Jonathan Frias. I'll be your moderator today. I'm also Territory North Central Manager. Today with me as well is Ken Miguel, our Inside Sales Manager. How you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good, Stephen. It's a good, lovely day for a webinar. What about yourself?
Excellent. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Also here with us is Mike Lugo, our head technician. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing great, Stephen. Thank you for asking.
Both feeling good. Once again, thank you for joining us here at Full Light Technology that has been manufacturing security cameras for over 20 years. Please feel free to type in any questions as we go along, and we'll go over them and answer them at the end of this webinar. At this point, I will pass it over to Ken.
Thanks, Stephen, and good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar. We're going over IP cameras today. So first, we're going to talk about Bolide's IP megapixel camera line. We're going over benefits of using these IP cameras over traditional analog, HD over coax, or other IP cameras. We're also going over different applications and challenges and how to utilize your iPac IP cameras, solve these as a solution. And what we really want to bring out in this webinar is that using these IP cameras, you're really not just getting a megapixel quality video. This is your most flexible and versatile solution available. So let's start. So Bolide's full line IP cameras is called iPac. iPac comes in a variety of specs. You have a 2 megapixel all the way up to a 6 megapixel cameras. And what really sets them apart over the competition are all the features that we load into these cameras. And again, these features are shared with the whole iPac family. Let's start with the iPac 2 megapixel. So let's look at the forms. We have this in a mini dome fixed lens. We have the 2 megapixel and a varifocal dome and a varifocal bullet. Main feature of this line is that it's a full HD 2 megapixel camera, good for any all-around type application. Want to talk about the features a little bit. It's got a 1/3 inch Sony megapixel XMR sensor. It's got built-in micro SD. It's got PoE enabled. It has two-way audio, and it's on-VIF profile as compliant. Here's a profile of the mini dome. For example, this particular one has one IR LED will go up to 20 feet. And I mentioned the features. Here is the camera outputs. You have your 12 volt audio in and out and Cat5e output. And we'll go over how to use these outputs later on. Next, we have a 2 megapixel wide dynamic range camera. This comes in an armored dome. Main selling feature is that it's a mechanical wide dynamic range camera. It'll go up to 120 dB and it's full HD. Next, we have an iPac 4 megapixel line. This is available in a varifocal lens armored dome and a varifocal lens outdoor bullet. Main feature is it's a 4 megapixel, so you're getting beyond a 1080p resolution. At the same time, you're getting real-time frames per second. We have the iPac 5.0. This is a 5 megapixel. It comes in a varifocal lens armored dome and an outdoor bullet. This is our highest pixel density camera. It's good for wide angle coverage, and we'll go over this camera again later on. Last but not the least, we have our 6 megapixel. This is our fisheye camera. It will do a 360-degree angle plus numerous different angles. It's also got a wide dynamic range and an ePTZ function. So let's look at benefits of using our iPac camera solution. Like I mentioned, you get high definition. You're getting a feature-rich and a future-proof surveillance system that will last for years. Our camera licenses are free, either by using an NVR, or we can configure a customized server for you. And there's no license fees per camera. It's all free. And really, you're looking at your most flexible and versatile camera solution that you can find. And we want to show you why these are more than just high definition cameras. So let's get to the application scenarios. Application number 1, user relies on viewing his security system offsite through a mobile device. Some places might have bad reception and cause camera stream to fail or lag. Requirement for this application, customer needs a consistent and reliable mobile viewing. An example would be rural areas when there's a very bad mobile coverage. Solution is multi-stream function.
Great, Ken. So the multi-stream function is a very important function that we have on these cameras, and you can see here we have 3 streams. And that's very important because on mobile broadband or maybe rural areas, like Ken said, where there's less coverage, you're forced to reduce to 3G speeds. You can lower the resolution to a lower resolution but still keep real time. But there might be other situations where you might want to have the higher resolution and lower the frames per second. And then you see stream 3 there. So either way, you're able to still keep either the quality or the frames per second on your camera and not have to compromise anything. And keep the resolution and have less frames per second, then you can do that too. And so here's an example of something that would happen on a 3G connection. You know, it's not going to be able to handle the 2 megapixel at 30 frames per second. But stream 2 comes through just fine.
So how do you access your camera settings to enable and choose the stream that you want to show? So there's 2 ways to log into your iPac camera. One is through your internet browser. Number 2 is if you're using our VMS iPac 2.5, let me show you how to get to your camera. So first is through internet browser. So you enter your camera's IP address, and I will take you straight to the camera. By the way, this is a live working online demo, so feel free to save this IP address and log on whenever you feel like. So you type in an IP address, and I will take you straight to the camera's login screen. You enter your username and password, and we'll take it right straight into the camera. Second way is through the iPac 2.5 VMS. So what you have here is the main interface of that software. To access your camera settings, you click on this button above, click on Setting, then click on System Setting, and you will see this window pop up. On the camera tab, you see Go to Web Interface. You click that button, and it'll take you right straight to the camera. So let's log in. How to access your multi-stream.
Okay, so you see the stream configuration tab there. Once we click that, it's going to take you to the configuration settings. Now this is pretty important because there's multiple ways you could change and configure your stream. As you can see on the screen there, frame rate, resolution settings, and a couple other settings that you might want to change in order to tweak the stream the way it's going to work best for you. And you can see that there is 3 streams. Let me note that the 3rd stream is in MPEG and not H.264. So that's just something to keep in mind when choosing your streams.
Having trouble with your streaming, switch to a different stream.
Correct.
Next application, video surveillance for large areas. Requirement is a high pixel density with extensive use of digital zoom. An example of this application would be parking lots or maybe public roads. Solution is your iPac 5-megapixel camera.
And this is pretty important because we get a lot of people saying, well, I want the best camera out. You know, we have 5-megapixel. Here's the thing. You don't really need a 5-megapixel camera because you're only going to see 2 megs. You're only going to get the 1080p out of your monitor. But here's the reason why you would need a 5-megapixel camera with high density. So as you can see in the picture, if you right-click over your live view, and you'll get the digital zoom. As you can see here, the high pixel density allows you to have a better picture, clearer picture when zooming. You take a look at the 2-megapixel, it's very depixelized, not a very clear picture, but on the 5 meg, you hardly lose any resolution at all. So this is why it's very important to know why a high density, high megapixel camera is needed in certain situations.
Next application, very similar. So video surveillance for large areas. You also need high pixel density and a lot of digital zoom, plus real-time frames per second. Our solution is our iPac 4-megapixel line. Why so?
So just like our 5-megapixel, you get the high density, but in real time, just like you would a 2-megapixel. As you can see there, you don't lose any picture quality when zooming, or not much at least, and you get to keep real-time playback and real-time live video as well. So it's very important to know the difference between the two. A 5-megapixel, and this is industry-wide, you're only going to get 10 frames per second out of a 5-megapixel camera. So 4-megapixel will give you real-time.
Next application, customer has an existing alarm system that needs to be integrated with video surveillance for an area that needs video confirmation for local police to respond to an alarm. Requirement, IP cameras that can be integrated as a part of an alarm system. Example would be building entrances and entryways. So our solution is built into the camera. It's the alarm input and output.
It gets us something very important. A lot of cities now actually require that you have this for video verification for false alarms and stuff like that. As you can see in the picture here, how it kind of works. A door opens, triggers an alarm, and that starts the recording. Or in alarm out situations, motion is detected, and that triggers the alarm to go off. So in video verification situations, you're able to see what's going on before they send someone out to the location.
And like I mentioned, every iPad camera has the same alarm in and out feature.
So let's take a look at how we would set that up. Under the alarm configuration tab inside the camera, you can see there's many different menus here. So we'll go over the first one, the alarm in. You would name the device whichever you want to name it. Very important, it says valid voltage level, low. Now it has to be a 4 to 12 volt to trigger the alarm in or alarm out, either one, it's both ways. You also could set if it's always open or always closed. The alarm mode, how you want the device to get triggered, frequency, and if you want to set times on it, something like that. Also, this is how you link the actual alarm to the device. And you see the alarm in and out. There's also a schedule you can set to it, just much like the motion alarm schedules in any DVR or MVR. You set the time, date, 24/7, however it's going to fit your needs. And also at the bottom, if you have any PTZs that need alarm linkage as well, you can do that.
Next application, additional cameras will be added into an existing IP camera system. There are open ports on the switch, but they're not PoE ports. Requirement, power must be supplied to the camera. Our solution is the built-in 12-volt DC input.
So as you can see here on the diagram, of course, we have our Ethernet port that is PoE ready. That'll run from any PoE switch, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you need a 12-volt DC adapter at the location. Also, here's what the pigtail looks on the back of our cameras, and it's the same situation. Sometimes a lot of PoEs might not have enough power to actually push the voltage on the camera. You still can have the 300 feet as you would on any network connection, but you need an extra boost of power. So you're able to do that with any of our iPac cameras. That gives you the option to do either PoE or 12-volt connection.
Certain NVRs, so built-in PoE, will transmit power at up to 200 feet.
Correct.
And transmit data at up to 300 feet.
And that's perfectly a situation where you need to actually have the 12-volt adapter at the camera.
So next application, use of NVR or server must be avoided. Requirement, cameras would need to store video recordings without the use of an NVR or a server. And there's a solution to that. That's the built-in SD card slot used as main storage.
Here's the beauty of all of our iPac cameras, is that each camera can be used as a standalone server if need be. That meaning that you don't need an NVR to record. The camera does it itself on board with an SD card up to 64 gigs. Also, if you lose network connectivity, you know that that camera is still recording because it has the SD card on board. Now, 64 gigs, a lot of people might ask, well, how much is that going to give me? Well, typically on a 24-hour recording, you get about a day and a half at a 2 megapixel. But at D1, up to 6 days of recording. So you can get some time out of it. And, you know, streams come into play. You can have it record stream 2, you get even longer, depending on how you configure your streams.
And this picture shows where the SD card slot is located in our bullet cameras, underneath the camera.
So let's take a look on how to configure this. Under the local record tab in the camera settings in the web GUI, you'll see here that there's a couple different menus. The first one is the record policy. This basically is going to tell you how much space you have, the status, what kind of card it is, which in this case is an SD, and you can make any changes that you need to make here. The next menu is the record directory. Now this is very similar to motion on a DVR or something like that. You have a schedule. You can set it to 24-hour recording. You can also set the alarms to record. Picture quality, streams, like I talked about earlier. You can change the streams in order to get more time out of your recording. We have a pre and post record for the alarm that gets set off on the camera. So you can set that to, by default, usually it's 30 seconds, and you can go up to, I believe, a minute after. So that's very important. And also audio will also be recorded to the SD card if that's something you need.
Next application, building has strict access. Voice recognition is needed to enter. Requirement is the ability to communicate via audio. Example would be an entryway with an intercom system. Our solution is also built into the iPad cameras. It's a two-way audio.
So let's take a look at the two-way audio. This is a perfect situation where you would need an intercom. You have something at the front door where you want to be able to see who it is that is ringing your doorbell, but you can also have a conversation with them before you let them into the house or the location. So let's take a look on how to enable this function. On the live video menu, right, when you log into the camera, you'll see on the bottom right, you have an audio and an interphone option. You can start and stop them as you wish, but this is where you will control the input and output of the audio.
Next application, extreme light condition and glare. Requirement is a full HD video surveillance with the ability to eliminate glare. Examples will be banks, hotels, facilities, anything with glass, doors, and windows that if opened, a bunch of sunlight comes in or sunlight comes in through the windows. Our solution is our new iPac Meg wide dynamic range cameras.
These are great cameras, Ken, because you can see these pictures here. The picture on the left, you can't even see the guy in the picture because of the glare coming in through the window. You can't even see the Christmas tree. The WDR camera will eliminate that and give you a nice, clear, crisp picture as if there was no glare at all. The picture on the right, in extreme light conditions, you get that whiteout on the screen or on your display, and you can't see what's in front of it. This will compensate the light coming in and allow you to see images that you would not be able to see with the normal camera.
And this is a mechanical wide dynamic range, right?
Yes, it is mechanical, not digital.
If you compare the pictures, without wide dynamic range, you can barely see any details. With wide dynamic range on, you can see what's going on in the background. This is another interesting application. Camera must have the ability to take clear images of license plates. They get asked this a lot. The requirement would be a license plate camera. Example would be toll gates and gate entrances. Solution is shutter speed control, which can be configured within the camera settings. This is something that you can only do with IP cameras, not with analog or HD over coax cameras.
So here I have a little chart. This is going to explain on how fast the light travels to get to the camera and how we would have to adjust that shutter speed in order to capture the image before the light enters. And it's a very simple chart. It just pretty much explains footage and camera distance. Let's take a look on how to enable this feature or how to change the settings on it. In the live video tab of the camera's GUI, you can right click over the picture and you'll see there's a sensor config option. Inside the sensor config option, you'll see the shutter control. By default, it is set to auto. You want to change that to fixed. Once you change it to fixed, you can see on the bottom that there's different numbers. Those numbers will coincide with that chart I just showed in the previous screen and allow you to adjust on distance and speed of the light entering the camera. And so here's that chart again, and you can see that the numbers pretty much match up with the settings on the camera inside the options.
So when you want to capture a license plate, you have to consider two things: the speed of objects that you want to see and the distance of the camera from the license plate. And this chart shows you the shutter speed adjustment that you need to make to be able to see license plates at different distances. Of course, we recommend you to install the cameras no more than 25 feet away from the vehicle. This way, it's close enough where you can see detail even at night with IRs on. And this is where you adjust your shutter speed. Guys, sorry for audio issues we had earlier, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to type it into the chat box and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation.
So the end result of the shutter speed adjustment is this. You can see here the license plate is very visible compared to a normal shutter speed on the camera. It's not exactly highlighting the license plate, but it is very visible, and we will take care of the application need.
So that takes care of license plates. Next application, one camera that provides coverage for all four corners of one room. Requirement is a 360-degree camera plus views from different angles. An example of this would be a retail store application. Solution is our iPac 6-megapixel fish eye camera.
So the fisheye camera, this is a very, very exciting product that we have.
New product.
New product. 6 megapixel, 360 fisheye with de-warping and EPTZ. And so I'm going to go over these features that this camera has. As you can see in the picture here, we have 5 views, 7 views, and 3 views. And that's where the de-warping comes into play. Of course, you got the single fisheye view, and the de-warping will actually de-warp each picture to show the angle at which you have it. And I'll go over that a little more in depth in a bit so you can know exactly what I'm talking about. So let's just go into how to change these options that you have. You have 2 different options to change. The first would be the mounting configuration. You can have it mounted from the top ceiling, against the wall, or on the table. That meaning that the camera will actually move its focus to where you have it configured. If it's on top, it's going to give you the upper view. On the wall, it's going to give you a 180 view. On the table, you get the 360 view, but it's flipped. And then, as I talked about earlier, the de-warping views. You get 7, 5, and 3. And we'll go in to show you exactly what that looks like. So, let's go into a little bit about the EPTZ. Now, let me just bring this up. When you're looking at to use the EPTZ, you do need to use either Chrome or Firefox. We need Flash Player in order to use this function. But in the full screen mode, if you double click on the live video, you will see the picture go up to the full screen and give you a full display. Now, when you click the fisheye view, you'll see some numbers come into play. And you can see that here highlighted, circled in the middle of the fisheye display. And to the right, you'll see that 1, 2, and 3 is numbered. Now, as I move these numbers around the fisheye, 1 being around where these chairs are, 2 to look at the poster, and 3 to look at the monitor wall, you'll see that the view of the camera actually moves to where I place these numbers. And you can do that with on the 7 view up to 7 different angles, 7 different views, 7 different de-warped pictures. Another important feature is the PTZ presets. You can set a pan tilt zoom. You can have it tracked. You can set presets to the actual camera, just like it was a normal PTZ. Just you can do zooming, focus, iris, all the normal functions you have with a full-size PTZ on one camera. And you can do that with each individual de-warped picture.
And this camera can be installed both indoor and outdoor.
Yeah, it is IP66, and it does have a built-in microphone on it.
And it shares the same key features as the rest of the iPac family, which is the SD card, alarm in and out, two-way audio, etc. Okay, next application. RJ59 has already been pre-wired and must be utilized for this installation. So your requirement is capability to transmit IP camera video as data over coaxial cable. Is this possible? Yes. Example of this would be upgrading any older camera systems to IP without the need to replace all the cables with UTP. Solution is our bolide Ethernet over coax converters.
So here's our Ethernet over coax converter. Now this can be used 2 ways. Either as we said, Ethernet over coax, or it can also be used as a PoE extender. So it's connected UTP on both sides, the receiver and the sender, with coax in the middle. And we can go up to 1,600 feet with this. That's way farther than our normal 300 feet we get out of a normal PoE or a normal network run. So this will allow you to not only save money without having to install new runs, but not having to buy other extenders to extend runs on new cameras.
So these converters are sold in pairs. One side is connected to your camera, and one side is connected to your hand. That could be an NVR, or it could be a switch. So that solves that problem. Next application, user needs a live footage of store embedded on a web page. requirement is capabilities to embed live video feed. Example would be retail stores or maybe an integration room. Our solution is utilizing the real-time streaming protocol.
So real-time streaming protocol. What this is, it allows you to embed streaming video inside of a server-side HTML page. You could be able to have a streaming video on your web page or any web page that customers or employees might need to see without having to log in as you would an MVR or a camera. This is streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at full HD with audio. And you would have to have someone set this up on a web page and running on a server, but our cameras do have the capability of doing this, and it's a very, very important feature for some applications.
And you would need a server, right?
You would need a server.
So that covers today's topics about our iPac megapixel camera line, benefits of using these iPac cameras over analog or HD over coax cameras, and how to apply them in real life scenarios and challenges and use the features that are built in to retrofit these cameras for this problem.
All right, at this point, I would like to go ahead and invite you to ask any questions, anything that we went over, and we'll gladly answer them. We'll give you a few moments. Go ahead and type anything in. Please feel free. Well, if there aren't any questions, we did record this webinar today. We'll post it on our YouTube page shortly. I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope you have a great day and have a good one. Anything else to add, Ken?
Thank you, everybody, for joining us in today's webinar, and we'll see you next month.